The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson. I just got out of the movie theater about 20 minutes ago. So I'm going to do a quick reaction to this. This is not an in-depth review by any means, but this is just my initial thoughts and emotions getting right outside of the movie. The best thing about this movie, by far, is the visuals. This is the most beautiful Batman movie of all time. It makes the Christopher Nolan movies honestly look like a CW show. Nothing wrong with the Christopher Nolan movies, but just comparing side by side, the level of cinematography in this movie is outstanding. It's just amazing. Every shot looks like a comic book panel come to life. It looks like a piece of artwork. I think probably my favorite shot of the film was probably at the end of the car wreck scene where Batman's getting out of the Batmobile. He's got the fire behind him, and he leans down to get the Penguin. You could take any of the silhouette shots above the rooftops, where it's just Batman and Gordon talking, or then Batman and Selina talking. The long takes. We could also talk about how the sound design is phenomenal. At the beginning of the movie, when you first see Batman coming in, you just see his boots, and if you feel the weight of his boots and this real world feeling, that was great. Loved that. Just from a movie standpoint, the cinematography had to be a 10 out of 10. Everything looked real and gritty and looked like a real world. I'm also talking about the visuals. Gotham, this is probably the best rendition of Gotham we've ever seen. It feels like Tim Burton's Gotham and the Christian Bale Gotham kind of had a baby and produced this Gotham. It's real and it feels real, and it could be a real world, but it's got this very stylized Gothic feel all throughout, whether it be the Wayne Mansion, which is now Wayne Tower, I guess, or whether it be like the City Hall or where the funerals are happening. Anywhere in the movie that it can accent that kind of Gothic feel, it does. And I think it really adds this character to Gotham as like a city. And also, speaking of Gotham, they spend so much time talking about how terrible Gotham is and how it's just the worst place on earth to live, which is kind of why Batman is needed. And I love the wrestling that happens between Batman and himself, where he's like, am I actually doing anything right for the city? Am I actually making a difference? That was great. Paul Dano's the Riddler, phenomenal. If you saw Prisoners, you kind of knew what you were going to get from him, but he still knocked it out of the park. It was basically the Zodiac killer Riddler, and it brought in how you would think Riddler would operate in today's world, which would be like a crazy serial killer. So that was really nice. Selena Kyle's Catwoman was really good. I felt like they could have given her a little bit more to do. Talking also about characters who had nothing to do. Alfred was kind of in this movie. He had 2 scenes, maybe. Felt like he was very underused. And I really wanted them to explore that dynamic a little bit more, because this Alfred seemed more of a partner to Bruce as opposed to a father figure like in the Nolan films. So I kind of was sad they didn't give Andy Serkis more, because I love Andy Serkis. He's a great actor, and I wish we just could have seen that. And it was a 3-hour movie, so you feel like they could have given him more. It wasn't like they had a short run time. I feel like I could have used more Alfred and less of the Falcone stuff. Robert Pattinson is great in this movie, but I can see why people may not like him as Batman, and why he may not be someone's definitive Batman. I could definitely see how people could like Keaton or Bale over him because of the charisma they bring. And this version of Batman is more a Batman you're kin to seeing in a comic book, which is more brooding, more methodical, and he's slow to speak, quick to act kind of Batman. You can definitely see the gears are turning in his head when he's examining the crime scene and he's going through, but he's just not as charismatic as Bale or Keaton were. But that's, again, not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're looking for in your Batman, which personally I love. I love Dark Batman. I love Batman who's not going to talk a whole lot, but you can still see that he's thinking during those scenes. You can tell that he's gauging and observing things. Keaton kind of the Keaton Batman kind of tipped his toe into the detective aspect of Batman's character, which is literally one of the biggest aspects of his character in the comics. Bale, again, kind of tiptoed in a little bit in the Dark Knight. Like there was a slight hint to the detective side, but it really was not shown a whole lot. The Batman kind of really takes that and runs with it. And the idea that he's a detective, you can see him like he knows the police procedures. He knows, he can tell things quicker than the cops can about the corpse. The action was great. I felt like there was just enough action. And every time Batman fought someone, you could tell that this version of Batman, if Christian Bale's was like a ninja, this Batman felt more like a street fighter or a boxer or an MMA fighter. Like he was breaking bones and just beating the snot out of people. The bad things. There are some bad things about this movie. It's not a perfect movie by any means. I still think it's probably one of the top 2 Batman films of all time. But the final act, for me, doesn't live up to the rest of the movie. I feel like the first 2 acts of the movie were strictly either the mob stuff, which was pretty good, or the Riddler stuff, which was phenomenal. And like I think one of the best scenes of the movie is him with the guy with the bomb on his neck, and he's trying to figure out the riddles. I feel like the end, I think, would have been suited a little bit better instead of Batman having to fight a bunch of faceless Riddler gangsters, and instead maybe having to solve one last riddle, like to save someone or save the city. I would have liked to see a little bit more of Batman versus the Riddler directly, and I think that would have been maybe a slightly better ending to the movie. But even that, I still love the ending. Some people don't like the Joker cameo at the end. I'm totally fine with it. I mean, the same people who are going to say we hate the Joker cameo, they should have added the Joker there, are the same people who loved probably the Joker reference at the end of Batman Begins. It means the same, like they went a little further. Instead of just showing the Joker card, they showed an actor and they gave him a little line. But I mean, I had no problem with it. It was fine. I would have liked them to tease maybe a different villain, because I'm kind of tired of the Joker at this point. But I'm fine. Like if they want to introduce the Joker, like the Joker would fit in this world, I have no problem with it. I would like to see Catwoman come back in a sequel. Overall, great Batman movie. I'm definitely going to go watch it again. At the very least, even if you don't love Robert Pattinson, you'll at least love visually watching this movie. You'll never have a bad time. The movie never really felt like it was dragging too much, except for maybe at the end. But the action was phenomenal. The visuals were phenomenal. The actors were phenomenal. I didn't even mention Gordon, which is probably one of my favorite Gordons of all time. I just think that this is one of the best Batman movies we have ever seen, and there's really nowhere else to rank it higher. I would say it's my second favorite Batman movie of all time. I don't think it surpasses The Dark Knight just because how iconic it is, and just how good Heath Ledger was. But this is definitely a contender for top 2 Batman movie. But definitely so far, in my opinion, the best. One of the best movies of the year. 9 out of 10 for Batman movie. Would watch again.